In this video, I'm gonna share with you exactly what you need to do to keep off the weight that you spent so much time taking off. Have you ever worked super hard? You're going to the gym, you're eating healthy, and you lose the weight, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 60 pounds you take off, only to put it right back on. Even worse yet, put on more weight than you originally were. Well, why does this happen? 80% of people do this. 80% of people put back on their original weight in just 2 years. The reason this happens is it's your identity. See, what we don't understand is 80% of the results come from our psychology, 20% come from the mechanics and strategy. So what do I mean when I say that? We like to cling to strategies. We like to cling to tools and mechanics, such as I'm gonna do paleo, no carb, no sugar. Those are all that's 20% of the work. 80% of it is gonna actually come from your psychology, AKA your identity, how you view yourself. You're never gonna be able to keep and maintain results that aren't in line with your identity. I love Tony Robbins. He nails it. So Tony Robbins says, the strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. You're never going to track outside of that. And when you think of identity, I want you to think of it like your comfort zone. And we all have a comfort zone. Anytime you get outside your comfort zone, which is this little box, you're going to scramble back in. So it's very important as you lose the weight, you become the person who's 30 pounds heavier, who's 40 pounds heavier, who's 60 pounds heavier. You lose that internal dialogue. You get rid of that because it's not serving you. And then when I say identity, that's who you truly identify with. It's not who you tell social media you are. It's not who you tell your friends and family you are. It's when you're behind closed doors, what you really think of yourself. It's your subconscious mind. Consciously, you may be thinking like, man, I lost 60 pounds. I feel great. I put on all this muscle. But subconsciously, your brain is like, bro, we're not supposed to be this weight. You're not supposed to be small. You ain't supposed to have muscle. Everybody in our family is big boned. You know this runs in our family. You know this ain't gonna last. So you have that internal chatter that's eating you alive. And what happens is we end up self-sabotaging ourselves. We literally end up self-sabotaging. And that may have happened to you. How do we change that? So if we know it's your identity, you're tied to that old identity, that old version of you, right? And your belief system is tied to that identity. How do we change that? Because now that you know, how do we change it? Like, I'm not gonna leave you hanging, and here's exactly how you change it. You change your identity by putting yourself in very uncomfortable situations. You change your identity by putting yourself in places and situations that cause you to grow, that cause you to get uncomfortable. Crisis is a great example of this. Right? So crisis is like, no one wants to be in a crisis. No one wakes up in the morning and said, you know what? I would absolutely love to be in a crisis. But what happens when you get put in a crisis, you're forced to change. You're forced into an uncomfortable situation where you have to adapt. And it's human nature to run away from pain and towards pleasure. Right? So getting used to living inside your comfort zone is detrimental. You have to get outside of that. This is why I tell my clients, if you want to get fit, the fastest way to get fit, the fastest way to lose weight, the fastest way to change your belief system is get around other people that are in shape. Get around other people who are already healthy, who are already lifting weights, who have already developed the habits, the belief systems, and they have the tools. Why? Because they're gonna rub off on you. I'm sure you've heard before, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you're overweight, I can almost promise everyone you hang around is overweight. So if this is how we change our identity, and this is what we need to do to keep it off, how can we ensure that this happens? Like, how can we make sure like you actually go through this process? This is why I love weight training so much. This is why I put all my clients, I'm like, yo, you have to lift weights. Because lifting weights, you're putting yourself in a controlled environment where you can put your body under stress. It's a controlled environment where you can push your limits and find out what you're really made of, find out what you're really capable of. And when you start pushing your limits, when you start figuring out what you're really made of, because every man inside, every man, you have this warrior inside you. With some people, it's just sleep. Maybe you haven't seen that warrior side of you since high school. You know, maybe life has beaten you up, your job has beaten you up, your wife is running you through the ringer, and you forgot about that savage beast that's inside of you. So when you get in a gym and you start pushing yourself and you start lifting weights that you haven't lifted ever before in your life, it shows you how much you're capable of, and that builds up your belief. That builds up your I can do this factor. And here's the thing. I always say this. This is why I do a 90, all I need is 90 days. My program is only 90 days. And I say that because success loves speed. It is so much easier getting results fast as opposed to slow. I'll give you an example. If I say you can lose 25 pounds in 90 days, or you can lose 25 pounds in 12 months. Which one's more powerful? Well, 25 days and 90 days is more powerful. And here's why. Number one, you have no wiggle room. You have to immediately get started. And with a lot of people, part of the issue is they make a decision and they never get started. They don't even make a decision because the decision is clear. So they just decide they're going to do something and never take that first step. Oh, I'll get started on Monday, or I'll get started after the holidays. But if you have 90 days to lose 25 pounds, you can afford, you have to get started now. Whereas if it's 12 months, I got 12 months. I still got 11 months. I still got 10 months. And that procrastination starts to creep in. And the reason success loves speed is because it forces you into massive action. And what massive action creates is momentum. It's like these small little wins you get. So if you have 12 months, you're not going to get as many wins because you're not taking that massive upfront action. But when you take massive upfront action, you don't get monthly wins. You get weekly and daily wins. So every single week, you're getting stronger. Every single week you're looking at your before and after pictures and you're seeing difference. You step on a scale, you're seeing a difference. You're noticing a difference in your clothes. So it's like win, 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 win. And each one of those are like dopamine hits, right? So you start getting results. Now all of a sudden, your wife's looking at you different. Dopamine hit. You step on the scale. You're 1.5 pounds lighter. Dopamine hit. You go to put on a pair of pants that you haven't worn in 7 years. They fit. Dopamine hit. If you're watching this video and you've made it this long, I already know some things about you. You're a winner. You're a champion. And champions do what champions do. You just had that little animal inside of you sleep so long. So if you want to lose the weight and keep it off, we have to switch that identity, and this is part of it. So again, massive action creates momentum. Momentum creates results. Results create excitement, which breeds more results. So people ask me, Tywin, how are you able to get people results in 90 days? Because it only takes 90 days to create the habits, to create the beliefs. And after that, it's embedded in. And then you just string them back together. 90 days, 90 days, 90 days, 90 days. And I don't care how much weight you have to lose, eventually you're going to hit your goal. But it's that first initial 90 days that's going to be the driving factor where you're going to change your identity, where you're going to change your belief system, and you can get to it. You can create massive action, what's going to create momentum, which is going to create results. Hopefully you got some value out of this video. I'll catch you on the next one.